wanted to respond to a commenter who talks about how a lot of fathers who abandon, a lot of children are being actually saved, by when their fathers abandon the family. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. She says a lot of Black men that leave their daughters to be raised by their mothers have sexual issues or pedophiles, and would mistreat their daughters sexually. Some of us are actually being protected from our fathers. And I wanted to, expand on this a little bit further as somebody who worked with the sex offenders for a number of years. In corrections. I wanted to say that this is actually a true statement. And not just Black fathers, by the way. It's, a lot of fathers of most races that will leave their children. However, Black and Hispanics are incarcerated at a much higher rate for sex crimes, whereas white men are not, unfortunately. And we saw that here in recent news, where a young man just basically got a slap on the wrist for sexually assaulting two women. And trigger warning, by the way. But one of the things that I notice in my work with sex offenders, a lot of, or even rapists, serial rapists, a lot of them would have children, just like children everywhere, because again, I do think there is a component, not on all cases, but in a lot of cases of rapists where there is hypersexuality. But a lot of them, and we would have groups about this kind of stuff, where they've got kids everywhere, but they've never seen, or they don't have a relationship with their children. And they're pretty open. I don't have a relationship with my kid. I'm not cut out to be a father. I don't want to be a father, and but very clearly you could see a history of sex offenses on their jacket. And, some of them may have touched their children at one point. A lot of them did, but then got up out of there and were never reported, unfortunately, but, moved on to other victims. So, there's, in a lot of cases, children, of their fathers have already been exposed to it, or they're a product of it, of their father's sex offenses, because a lot of them are rapists too. And so there is something to be said for that, and that, the fact that he's not in your life, or has left early, or you don't know him, is I hate to say a blessing in disguise, but I don't think that this commenter is wrong, but it is really and truly a blessing in disguise. And a lot of sex offenders, at least when I talked to them, the ones that I worked with, a lot of them were very honest about that. A lot of them were also honest about, hey, it's probably not a good idea for me to, get out of prison, because I still have the urge to do things, and if I get access, it's not going to be good. So, yeah, this is true. And I would say it's true specifically in the population that you were talking about, Black and brown, Black fathers and Hispanic fathers especially, and I've worked with all races of sex offenders. But I would say it's true in this group, because that group is the most likely to be incarcerated, meaning they're the most likely to get consequences, whereas white men or white passing men are not, and they know this, and they take advantage of that, full on advantage, and they target specific groups of people because they know that they're less likely to be punished for it, particularly if they are white men of means. White men of means will also have a lot of family protection as well to prevent incarcerated, such as the case that we saw a couple weeks ago where the guy who was in high school, sexually offended those young girls who were also in school and skipped on out of that. But so there's a lot of family protection, a lot of family money, and especially if they're like athletes or whatever the case may be, families will usually cover them quite a bit. If you don't believe me, take a good look at what's going on nationally with all of the stuff that's being published in these files and whatnot. That's a good example of the level of protection that certain men get where they don't have to pay consequences or their consequences are minimal because I've yet to hear, about the majority of people facing prison time for what is now being, what we're now observing right in front of us on national news. So I hope that helps. Thanks so much for putting this out there, and you're spot on, and I've seen it and worked it many years firsthand.